Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome back to the channel. You were seeing this on the OM-3 with the Olympus 12mm f2. Just shot with a straight out of camera color profile. I think it's called Color 1, just for reference. The reason why I'm telling you that is because I will switch to the Nikon in a second to compare the two. But I did dump the Fuji, not the Fuji. Well, I dumped Fuji, but I dumped the Sony system just because I just didn't feel like I was really enjoying using it. And so I wanted to go back to something I really enjoyed using. Now, if you guys heard me talk about some of the cameras that I enjoy using, my FE2 is upstairs because I was playing with it, but here's my Canon AE1. And I really love holding these cameras. You guys also know that in the past, I have tried the Nikon Zf, and I just kind of dogged on it. I thought the ergonomics were poor, it was chunky and all that kind of stuff. But I wanted to give it another chance, because I'm really in search of feeling like I do when I pick up that AE1 or my FE2 or another camera you guys haven't seen. Haven't even shot a roll through this, but just the way it feels in my hand, this is Konica with this little 40mm 1.8, I believe it is. This kind of stuff is exciting to me. So I'm going to talk to you guys real quick about two cameras I picked up at the same time roughly, and I've been shooting with for, I don't know, week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it's been, a couple weeks for the ZF and like a week for the OM, maybe not even a week on the OM, and talk to you about like what I feel so far on these cameras. So let's start with the Nikon ZF, because I think we've been down this path, but here's what I do like about the Nikon ZF. I love a few things. I love, first of all, these dials up top. They are brass. They feel great in hand. I like the idea that if I were to use it for a long time, let's be serious. When have I ever done that? The dials would have some brassing to them. It's really cool. I think the shutter button, which is that metal, it feels really, really good. I like the exposure compensation wheel right there. I think that's cool. Don't really care about the f-stop window that's on the top. And I just like the way the top of the camera is presented, the materials are used, and I like the way the camera looks overall from that perspective. I also like that the camera has still the wheel on the back and the wheel on the front. So if you want to go traditional control wheels, kind of like the X-T5, I think that's really, really great as well. The fact that the camera is a flip screen, which is a must for me because I do videos like this, was great. And the fact that I can mount my Nikon flash on there, or I can adapt some of my other F-mount glass that I have laying around, is fantastic. Add to the fact that it's a full frame sensor. This has good autofocus now. It really can do everything. And this camera in particular, if you look right here, I don't know if you can see it, it has a switch to quickly go from black and white to camera to video. I love everything about that. And so I really like the camera from that perspective. But the things I didn't like about the ZF in the past still hold true. You put bigger lenses on this, which I try to avoid. Ergonomics are a little bit rough. But this camera is just a chunky camera. It's a big boy. This is not something you throw into your jacket pocket, no matter how small of a lens you put on it. And it just never really feels like a small camera. And so back to my original point of trying to feel like something like this Canon AE1, it doesn't really feel the same. I want to point one thing I do like. The manual focus experience on this camera for a digital camera is one of the best that there is. The way that it still tracks eye and face, and when you go to focus, it punches in on it to confirm. Fantastic implementation. The best implementation of manual focus on any camera I've used besides like an actual true rangefinder or whatever. Straight out of camera colors are pretty good. The black and white profile is fantastic, but it's just a real chunky boy. And the other big piece of it is that even their most, I guess, aesthetically pleasing paired lenses with the ZF just they don't have lenses that match. If you want to shoot this in a way that makes it kind of feel like it's a cohesive experience, you got to get like the manual focus Dipoc lenses or Voigtlander lenses, or maybe adapt some older F-mount manual focus glass, because like even like this 40 f2, which is nice and small and compact and gets a lot of rave reviews, it's just a chunky, or I'm not say chunky, but it's like a thick plastic tube. So is the 28-28. It's just the Nikon glass does not, their S line, it doesn't fit the aesthetic of the ZF. And that's still a problem and a complaint for me. Another complaint, if I'm going to be picky, is that yes, this has the SD card slot and a micro SD card slot at the bottom here. But if you want to get to it, you have to pop this thing open all the time. And so when I have it on a tripod, like I do here, getting the SD card off is a bit of a problem. Not a big deal, not the only camera to do this, but I bring it up because the camera I'm comparing it to has a different implementation. The EVF is a fantastic EVF. It's awesome EVF. It makes that manual focus experience I talked about also really, really good. The rest of the body is kind of plasticky. The top plate is magnesium or metal. And like I said, the dials are brass, and so that feels good. And so overall, this is a very, very good value camera for the money. But just always been a little something that doesn't jive with me. And so for that reason, I picked up the OM-3. And I'm going to switch off of this OM-3 right now to this Nikon Zf, and we will use this camera to record and talk about the OM-3. I don't know why I made that effect, but this is the other camera I've compared it to. This is the OM-3. Now, for reference, am shooting on the Nikon Zf, and I'm shooting with the standard profile straight out of camera, similar type of things. You'll notice the background blur because I'm shooting on a faster lens, but it's also a full frame sensor. You'll notice different colors, and yeah, but I want to compare this OM-3 to the Nikon Zf in a lot of ways. Now, there's some obvious ones. I guess I'll start with some things that are big differences in the negative for the OM-3. One of them right off the bat, I talked about this, is the manual focus experience, and by default, the OVF. The OVF on the Nikon Zf is far superior to the OVF on this thing. And by nature, the way the Zf does manual focusing and how it tracks eyes still and kind of uses that to the eye tracking to check focus, the OM-3 is not very good at that. So the EVF experience and the manual focus experience by default are better on the Nikon Zf for sure. Obviously as well, the sensor size is a big difference. This is a 20 megapixel micro four thirds sensor. That's a 24 megapixel full frame sensor. But as you saw from the pictures in the beginning of the video, the differences aren't huge. Those pictures were shot on the Nikon Zf with the 40mm f2 and the 25mm 1.8 version 2 for the OM-3. So those are kind of the bigger differences. But after that, I would tell you that I think the OM-3 is better in most ways. First of all, back to my initial mission, look how much these look similar. Oh, sorry, my microphone's gone. Look how similar these look. The OM-3 is the only camera, digital camera, that I've ever picked up, besides a Leica M, that actually feels like a film camera in my hands. Instantly, it's obvious. From the fact that it has like this same type of grip on the side, which some will say is no grip, to the size of it, the weight of it, the look of it, it is very, very close and very similar to a film camera. The dials on this camera are also very nice. Now, the ZF dials are brass, but these are super nice as well. They're knurled. I think it's the focus. They're knurled, they're metal, they feel cold to the touch if you let it sit out. Same with the top plate. They sound really good. Let me give you a little sample here. They're awesome. On top of that, you see the top of the camera here. It has the locking pin for the, what's it called? The mode wheel. No, my gosh, can't think of it. Where you select manual aperture and that kind of stuff, right? And similar to the ZF where it had the black and white camera and video switch, on the side here it has a switch to go from video to photo to slow and quick. Now, one thing about the placement of the buttons on this camera, as you see on the left side here, the on-off switch is right here. It's on the left side of the camera. I'm not a big fan of that. The ZF has it on the actual shutter button, and I think that's a better implementation overall. But both of these have very good controls in terms of kind of that clicky wheel, and the dials feel premium, all that kind of stuff. This also is a flip screen, so I can record video, as you guys saw. The autofocus on both cameras works really, really well. This has got really good autofocus, kind of like the OM-1, so that does a really good job as well. But a couple things that make a little difference here and there. For one, I talked about the 2 card slots in the ZF. Now, the OM-3 does not have 2 card slots. It has just 1. But if you look, it has 1 card slot on the side, which is awesome because if you leave your camera on a tripod or you put a plate on it, it's right there on the side. It makes it easy and accessible. I like that a lot. The second thing is the battery door and the placement of the 1/4 20 thread. If you look in the bottom of the camera here, you see there's a pretty big separation between the quarter 20 thread and the bottom of the battery itself. So when you put a tripod plate on there or whatever, there's some pretty good separation. But in addition to that, you open the battery door, it opens like this, whereas the ZF opens up towards the quarter 20 thread. Again, little small differences like that are kind of cool. Now the, I guess, calling card of the OM-3 is that on the front it has this color wheel, if you will. And you can leave it obviously in the standard Olympus color profiles, but then it has one for mono and color. And you get an option to create a lot of these different color profiles and simulations that you can save to the custom function dials on the top of the camera. The ZF also has a way of creating custom profiles and looks, but this is just a better implementation in my mind. Quickly switch from color to mono, and then obviously using the C1, C2, C3, C4, C5 on top of the wheel is just a really good way to go about it. The thing about it is that at the end of the day, you have to think about the ecosystem as well. And this goes to the lenses. Now I have on here the 12mm f2. This is a very, I guess, suiting lens for this camera. It's metal, it feels premium, much like the camera. It's small, it's got a good look and rendering to it. It has a manual focus clutch. If I pull this down, you guys can see that there's a manual focus scale right there. And it's just kind of has a more of a vibe that fits the overall camera. And the thing is, the Micro Four Thirds mount has a lot of lenses like this. It has the 15mm 1.7 Pana Leica lens. You can put the 25mm f1.8 version 2 lens on there. It's a very small lens that fits the same aesthetic as the camera itself. The 45 1.8, the 75 1.8, and all that stuff. And of course, if you want to put bigger Olympus glass on there, some of the pro zooms, you might want to add a grip. You can do that, and you can make it bigger as well. And so as I sit and use both these cameras, and I have these both in my hand, it's not lost on me that the image quality, even though close, is better out of the ZF for certain. But the overall usability and fun factor of the OM-3 is just, it's just there. It's just better. It's smaller, it's more compact. The lenses are more kind of the aesthetic of the camera. It just feels better in the hands. The funny thing is that this camera actually costs more than the Nikon Zf. This is $2,000, I think, brand new, and that one I think is $1,800 brand new. So you're getting a Micro Four Thirds sensor for more money than you can get a full frame sensor. One last thing to talk about on this OM-3 is that if you look right in the back, there's a thumb grip right there. This makes a massive improvement in terms of handling. My thumb will land right here, and it just feels more natural to hold, even with no front grip. The ZF lacks that. Of course, now you can add a thumb rest, so I'm not going to make that a big point, but it is something to talk about. Overall, I would tell you guys that both cameras are excellent, and I'm debating about keeping one or the other. My thought is I want the OM-3. This is the camera I enjoy using way more. The lenses support it and all that kind of stuff, but I also have like the FOMO of, is Micro Four Thirds a system to invest in? I've had this conversation many times. And I'm going to take senior portraits for my daughter probably in a couple of weeks here. I also have to do team portraits like I've talked about. Will this be sufficient? I think I know the answer is yes, but I have to get over it in my head a little bit. They're both very, very good cameras, but I think this one nails the actual implementation and attempt at being a true retro camera from its looks, its size, its weight, its feel in the hands. This just does a better job. The lens ecosystem, I think it does a better job. And so that's my thoughts on the Nikon ZF versus the OM-3. But you guys tell me where I missed the mark. I'm sure there's things I didn't talk about. How did the pictures in the beginning of the video look? Those were both all straight out of camera pictures. Just random shots. I didn't do any editing there, that kind of stuff. But how did those look comparably? And if you had only $2,000 to spend on a camera body, which one would you pick? That's the question. Let me know in the comment section below, because at the end of the day, I'm probably only going to keep one of them. And how much better did this video look on the ZF than the OM-3? Color is worse or better on the ZF. The depth of field makes a big difference. Autofocus, all that kind of stuff. Thanks for watching, everybody. I appreciate it, and I'll see you guys on the next one.